This week on Cybercrime, a special edition devoted to Defcon 10.
This comes around once a year. You got to be here for it. You got to see it. If you're in the business, you got to know what's going on.
We go inside the computer underground for the latest on hacking, computer security, and online privacy.
And it's the first DEFCON since 9/11. Learn how new laws and tighter security are affecting the hacker community.
They've made some computer crimes much more punishable, define some of them as terrorism.
Have lawmakers gone too far?
And then it's the government's turn. How realistic is a cyber attack on the nation's power grid?
Maybe someday, terrorist groups and governments attacking us, instead of using bombs and bullets, using bits and bytes.
Exclusive interviews with the people in charge of protecting cyberspace.
Finally, it's not all work and no play. The sights and sounds of the largest hacker conference in the world. It's all ahead right now on Cybercrime.
Hi, I'm Jennifer London.
And I'm Alex Wellen. Welcome to Cybercrime. This week, a half hour dedicated to DEFCON.
It was 10 years ago that a small group of hackers, about 100, decided to get together, socialize, exchange ideas, party.
And now hundreds are thousands. And with anything that is in size, it's going to have some growing pains, but it's going to have some benefits.
And anytime you get thousands of hackers, feds, suits together in a small hotel off the Vegas Strip, things are going to get crazy and anything can happen.
You got to stroke those packets through.
Hey, that's kind of vibrating.
And the wireless network is up and running finally.
There certainly was a lot up and running this year at DEFCON 10 in Las Vegas. And once again, the world's largest hacking convention was anything but conventional.
And guess what? I'm really not that drunk.
I use this as my chance to express my alter ego.
You can get around and geek out all you want.
It's definitely out of the movies. You know, you see those people with the wacky hair.
Or spiky hair, blue hair, short hair, long hair. It doesn't really matter. What does matter this year? Security, more so than in years past, given 9/11.
I think it's really critical these days we look at a lot of public systems and make sure they're not vulnerable to cyber terrorism.
I think corporate America needs to wake up and learn a lot more about security.
Hackers are effectively something that tests the security of systems, and it's worth doing that testing.
What have you guys learned so far?
How to make a Windows 2000 server more secure, how to, use wireless networking.
Which is also a hot topic on the floor this year. And while these guys may look like something out of a bad porn movie, they're actually scanning for wireless networks. And if you couldn't guess, this is the antenna.
I have found 28 networks so far just within this area. Before I found about 40 networks total. That was with my smaller antenna.
Trying out the bigger one.
Speaking of bigger,
this year is a lot more people here. It's bigger, it's better.
So what a difference a year makes. Last year, DEFCON's future appeared a little shaky, with a lot of attendees complaining it was too big, too corporate, and had strayed too far from its roots. In fact, a lot of attendees wondered if DEFCON had enough legs to make it another year. Well, look around. The floor is packed. The general mood is upbeat and positive, with attendees getting back to basics.
It doesn't look like it's slowing down.
There's definitely some kind of different energy between last year's DEFCON and this year's. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, the vibe is all different this year. I think many factors. I think maybe people are a little bit more serious after the 9/11 attacks. I think after the .com crash, maybe not so many people thought that they wanted to be a security guy. It wasn't so sexy anymore. So I think maybe some of the wannabes didn't show up.
if anyone knows the changes DEFCON has gone through during the past 10 years, it's Jeff Moss, the convention's founder.
This is what we were hoping to achieve in 2 or 3 years of changing the program around. We were going to get back to our roots, better speakers, get rid of the crazy rave room, get a more relaxed atmosphere.
And some are certainly finding it easy to relax. Others should maybe lay off the caffeine for a while. And as expected, not all attendees share the same upbeat feeling.
It just hasn't been very exciting. There hasn't been new information presented. The talks, you can find all the information on the net. Nothing very original about it.
I don't think it's really gone corporate. I think it's more of corporate has gone DEFCON.
You see them selling more and more merchandise. You see the price going up.
It's true. The 10th anniversary of DEF CON brought the first admission hike in 4 years, according to Moss. Attendees paid $75 instead of $50. And while $25 may have chased some away, in general, most weren't complaining about the increase or anything else.
I like it this year, and I don't know what's really different, but in general, I think I'm finding the crowd a little friendlier.
The people here are the nicest people, and they actually will talk to you.
But this year's, it's really creeping us out because nothing's going wrong. I mean, we're used to all kinds of disasters, and so far nothing's happened.
Yeah, but just wait for the black and white ball and Hacker Jeopardy.
The categories for the first...
While we're not expecting any disasters, it won't be as tame as the hacking floor.
If they're always like this, I don't see why I'd stop.
And we're not stopping either. Later in the show, we'll bring you highlights from the after-hours events at DEFCON 10. Our crews stayed up extra late this year, and you won't want to miss Vanna Vinyl. And coming up right after the break, how the post-September 11th climate is affecting government regulation of the online world.
It led them to pass a whole series of what I would call, basic knee-jerk type legislation.
What this means for anonymity, law enforcement, and you. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The nation has experienced a loss of innocence since September 11th, and it's had a profound effect on the hacking community. What now? What next? Is cyber terrorism a real threat, or is the fear of a cyber Pearl Harbor simply an overhyped notion being spread by the government and the media?
I firmly believe that there is a massive threat for cyber terrorism based on the technology and the fact that a lot of people refuse to protect themselves.
Robert Virus Lupo should know. He's DEF CON's expert on computer viruses. Perhaps it wasn't on the DEF CON 10 conference schedule, but talk of potential cyber terrorism was the buzz on the floor. This was pretty much the sentiment last year.
Cyber terrorism is a myth, which is now fading gradually.
Hackers still hate the hype, says longtime DEF CON philosopher and speaker Richard Thiem. But Thiem says the hacking community is profoundly aware of how vulnerable our electronic infrastructure is.
There's not going to be like one big attack on the electronic infrastructure, but as part of an attack on America in concert with attacks on other parts of the infrastructure, it's viable.
Perhaps the annual Meet the Fed panel could shed some light. These were the panelists from last year.
Nowhere else do we get the insight that we're getting here.
And where were the feds this year?
Well, they're not speaking.
DEF CON veteran and staffer Dead Addict.
I think the feds are more nervous to be associated with the people here, and the people here are more nervous to talk to them and to interact with them.
Caesar's Palace, that's where you would have found plenty of feds earlier in the week, attending the pricey sister conference to DEF CON, known as Black Hat.
Black Hat is basically kind of a corporate government-based computer security conference where they bring in a lot of the real hackers as opposed to the script kiddies.
VK DeLong handles the press for both Black Hat and DEF CON.
I think there's no Meet the Fed panel because the guy who organized it, Jim Christie, didn't show up this year.
There are quite a few feds. They have been fairly low-key in their presence.
Shatter knows he's one of the DEF CON goons in charge of security.
Most of the time, like years past, the feds are here to learn just like anybody else.
Maybe we'll have some luck here. The game, Spot the Fed, moderated by none other than Priest.
Doesn't he look like the Scottish gardener from The Simpsons?
The guy in the middle thinks the guy on the right is a Fed. Nope. Attendees here couldn't spot any. We managed to spot one.
I've been here officially on at least 3 occasions.
FBI's Don Cavender says many of his fellow feds are busy elsewhere, concentrating on anti-terrorism efforts.
I've actually seen a lot more outreach from the hacker community to me than I've seen in the past years.
Don comes to learn, network, and yes, recruit.
In the DEF CON common areas, if the feds are here, they are definitely under the radar.
But in the conference rooms like the one behind me, they're the topic of conversation. In particular, how new federal laws passed after 9/11 will affect the hacking community.
Hacking is political.
DEFCON speaker and activist Simple Nomad.
The supposed people that are running the government, it led them to pass a whole series of what I would call, basic knee-jerk type legislation.
They passed the USA Patriot Act, which stripped away a number of the fairly important rights and added a great deal of additional electronic surveillance.
Former hacker defense attorney Jennifer Granick packed the room. Attendees got a primer on the new Patriot Act.
So before people get upset, I just want to say not all hacking is redefined as a terrorist offense, but some hacking is.
But many are already upset, fearing new federal laws will ultimately be misdirected at the hacker community.
The traditional terrorist networks aren't going to use cyber terrorism. They're not going to. It doesn't have the visceral fear. So the proposed legislation is going to hurt us. People here aren't comfortable with the feds.
Welcome back. As we've seen throughout the show, DEFCON is a lot of things to a lot of people, but a stuffy, uptight convention with ties and pinstripes, it's not. DEFCON is a party, and this year was no exception.
There's nothing better than a good-natured ping light to clear the air after a few hours of staring at your computer screen. And that's what it takes to compete in one of DEFCON's most popular events, a complicated 3-day network hacking game called Capture the Flag.
Every team has a flag, and if you put your flag on another system, you count twice. So that's one way to win.
A different kind of game was introduced at DEFCON this year, war driving. Players drive around Vegas for 2 hours, searching for as many public and private wireless networks as they can find. Extra credit for finding ones without any security.
Wow, I just got Rich's 4G network, 3 of them sitting in the garage.
Back at the hotel, you might be looking to bring a DEFCON souvenir back home.
The DEFCON shot glasses, yeah, they happen to be some of our biggest sellers.
So it's just not used computer parts and CD-ROMs for sale here at DEFCON 10. Style is also very important in the hacking community, like these lovely jackets here. This one's pretty nice. It's 80 bucks. I'm gonna try it on. Little hot in Vegas for a jacket like this, but again, style's important. It's pretty nice. And then we have this jacket over here. This jacket is 120. I don't know, what do you think? Is it me? Which one do you like better? Oh, and I have something for Alex. I don't know. What do you think? Is it him? I think it's his size.
And style was key at Saturday night's Black and White Ball. But even here, the hardcore hackers couldn't leave their laptops.
I don't see any hands.
By now, it was close to midnight. Time for a noisy trivia takeoff called Hacker Jeopardy!
Aren't you hot in that thing?
And every hacker's dream, co-host Vanna Vinyl.
Microsoft code names for 100. Chicago.
What is Windows 95?
Windows 95, that's it.
Now that was an easy one. Here's one for Alex.
Same category for 200. Memphis.
Okay, Alex, I'm going to give it to you again. The category is Microsoft code names. The answer is Memphis.
So let's see, Windows 95 was Chicago, so I'm guessing that Windows 98 is Memphis. So.
Wrong. You need to state it in the form of a question, please.
What is Windows 98?
Very good. So if after all of this you still want more DEFCON coverage, our website won't let you down. We have bonus clips from Alex's interview with cyber czar Richard Clark.
Plus more about online anonymity and whether it even still exists after the adoption of the Patriot Act.
So just head to cybercrime.com and check it out. And that's all the time we have.
I hope you enjoyed our DEFCON special.
And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.